obviously see every mistake and all the frustrations as an opportunity to learn and grow. Can you see the progress you're making, or do you just focus on winning the next game?
That's a really good question, and that's something that we've actually talked about in the quarterback room. And it is always about getting better and improving, but at the same time, you need to look back and see how far you've come. And in 2 short years, I feel like I've gotten much better as a quarterback, but there's still so much more room to improve. And so that's one of those things that Shane Day and I talk about all the time, and we actually get to talk about it quite a bit.
When you look at Mike Zimmer's defense, what makes it so unique?
Yeah, he's got those guys dialed in. He coaches them incredibly well, and when you've got talented guys like that on their side of the ball, and especially a coach like that, and when all that goes together, you've got an incredible defense, and they're about as tough as it gets. And so just watching them on film, immediately you see how talented they are, and definitely a very tough defense.
From a scheme perspective, Brandon said that Mike Zimmer is one of the best third down defensive engineers maybe in the history of the game. Just third down specifically, how much are they disguising stuff, and how much of a challenge is his defense on third down specifically from that perspective?
Yeah, it's kind of like we just mentioned. They're an incredibly well coached team. Got some really talented guys on that side of the ball, and they make plays. And they've got a really good front seven. And what they're able to do with this disguises, and they make everything look the same. And like you said, they've been historically good over the past decade or so, and so they've been able to pick that up. And it's a very tough third down team, and so you have to do a good job of having a preparation and having a protection plan all week, and so that when you go in there on Sunday, you have any chance to beat them.
I know the schemes are different, obviously, between the Ravens and the Vikings, but one thing that popped up in that Ravens game was a lot of third down disguise. Are there lessons that you can take from that game and apply to this game, just in terms of maybe having seen more or being more prepared for disguise?
Oh, yeah, entirely. I think having gone through that Ravens game and seeing the looks that they gave, and, you got to learn from it. And obviously a tough game for us, but we had a lot of good film to watch and have to improve from that. And so whatever the defense brings, you have to be ready for it. You have to do a good job of preparing for it and seeing it and scouting it and going through all that process. So, I feel like as long as you have a good protection plan, you give yourself a shot. But, this Vikings defense, they're very tough, and so you need everything you've got for them.
Justin, in the Philly game, I think the coaches made an effort in moving in the pocket with some boot action plays. How much did that kind of help you find a rhythm early in that game?
I think that's something we try to do every game. It's just a switch up from the normal drop back, and I think we've got guys on the outside that are able to make plays, especially when we get on the outside. So I think it's just one of those little things to our offense that we're able to do.
Hey, Justin, what is your training regimen currently versus the beginning of off season? Maybe you might have did a lot of weightlifting. Are you doing resistance bands now? Have you tapered that down a little bit? What does your training regimen look like?
It's pretty similar to the off season. I think we kind of slow it down Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Most of the heavy lifting is done on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then it's kind of downhill from that.
So you are lifting weights?
Correct. Does it not look like it?
Actually, it does, but I didn't know maybe if you were doing yoga. No, actually it does, but I didn't know if you were doing yoga. I didn't know if you had anything else involved in that.
No worries. Yeah, it's all good.
Just talking to Joe yesterday, he said something kind of interesting, that the offensive staff needs to expand their imagination in terms of the throws that you can make. We were talking specifically about the throw to Mike off play action, where he threw it 60 yards across the field. Joe said he really hasn't been around a quarterback with the arm talent to make some of those throws. Are you in his ear at all, saying hey, let's this is a throw I can make, let's push it here? Is that something that you would talk with Joe about? Because it's an interesting thing to say, sort of doing things that are outside of his imagination.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I think very highly of the guys we have on the outside. I think Mike Williams, Keenan, Jalen Guyton, and all those tight ends we have, they're able to make plays on the outside. And whenever we can get the ball downfield to them, I think something good's going to happen. I'm not necessarily adamant about pushing those, but whenever I get the chance, I'd love to take those shots to those guys, because I think that adds a huge part of our offense to get the ball downfield. So, I do think that's something that moving forward we need to take more advantage of.
Do you feel like Sunday was a complete game from the offense? I mean, you passed the ball around to 9 different receivers, offensive line block. You weren't sacked for the first time in your career. Did you feel like it was kind of like one of those complete games?
I think it was a big step up for us. I think we could be better on fourth down. We had a couple of those situations that we need to execute better. But I feel like we got the right guys out there. We got the right calls. We were just inches away from executing, and so that's one of those things that I thought overall we did a lot of good things, but a lot of good things that we need to fix too. And so we addressed those on Monday, and thankful we had another week of preparation, another week of practice to prepare for those things.
And you guys have had a few games like last week where you closed it out with the ball. Is that something? Is there more confidence in doing that the next time that you've done it, or is it just every game is different?
I think that's a really good point, actually, because you take a look at last year, and those are some of those games that we gave up early on in the year, and late in the year we kind of found a way to win those games, a 4-game win streak later in the year. And as soon as you kind of learn to put away games like that, I think you feel more confident going into the next one. And having been through that in the Washington game, now the Eagles game, we've gone through it. We know what to do. We know how to execute. And so whenever you go into the next one, you look back and remember the experience that you gained from that game.
Hey, Justin, are you in regard to short yardage situations? Coach said the other day that you have the autonomy to kind of do the quarterback sneaks when necessary or when you see fit. What's that thought process? Maybe it's 3rd and 2, you only get a yard, now it's 4th and 1. Are you thinking play ahead to go ahead and do the quarterback sneak, or are you looking to the sideline for a different play? What's that thought process go through your head?
It's more so of a tag onto a given play. It's not. I don't think I'm quite given the freedom to just decide to do it on any play. But it's one of those things that, given the right look, the right opportunity, you're going to take it, because sometimes you're able to save a play that you need to have later on in the game. And I think the quarterback sneak is, a very effective play on short yardage situations. And so I feel like very comfortable behind the guys that we have blocking. So it's been pretty successful for us.
Now that you guys are 10 weeks in and you kind of have got to see Coach Staley training camp. Now the head or the version of during the season. What has stood out to you about Brandon so far this season?
The best thing about him is he's the same in every situation. He is a confident, he's a relationships type of guy that cares so much about our football team, and he's so smart. And he was the exact same in fall camp as to spring ball. And he's one of those leaders that everyone wants to work for. Everyone wants to fight for him, and they want to go to battle for him. And he's got the respect of his team, and everyone really likes to play for him.
When we talked to Brandon earlier this week, he brought up one of the goal line plays after the 98-yard drive. He had a 2nd down run to Austin Eckler at a shotgun, and the defensive end kind of crashed down on the play. He mentioned that you could have kept it and potentially won the edge, but was that in the play call, or was he sort of saying you could have freestyled and potentially kept it on a zone read, or am I better off asking?
It wasn't quite a zone read.
Okay.
I'll have to take a look at his comments, but
Okay.
That's one of those plays that you're trying to get the end to kind of get blocked by the tight end coming across, but that's something that we'll have to look at.